There are some whores in this house.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerized. I know words. Mike Pounds.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation.
But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
I had the best words. God bless the United States.
How you like that, boy?
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Everybody, welcome to the show. It's Wednesday, it's hump day, it's middle of the week. We got show, we got a show, we got stories, we got fun, we got disaster, normal stuff. Yeah, it's the usual. So before I get into it, hi, how y'all doing? It's a day. Doing pretty good here, I guess. The normal frustrations, but you know how it is. So I want to break down before we dive into it. I do of course want to do the normal thing where I will ask you to please like and share the stream. Very helpful if you do so. Please do that. Please, you know, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, whether it be Twitch, YouTube, whatever. Give us a like or whatever. If you're on Twitch, of course, give us a follow if you haven't already. If you're watching, share that way. All that wonderful stuff. Need your help more than ever. Our views are terrible. And it's not just us, by the way. The election's over. It's been over for a while, and everybody is feeling the pain. And so need your help more than ever with those likes and shares. Donos, of course, as well, are always welcome. So that said, breakdown. What are we going to talk about today? Well, if you ever wondered which kid is more important to Donald Trump, I have the answer. It might not surprise you, but it's a little bit of fun. Again, we're going to get through some fluff. We got some candy. We got some light stuff. It's just totally ridiculous. And then we have important stuff. For example, conservatives talking about armed rebellion. As always, Tomi Lahren does something nice and gets obliterated by her fans. No good deed goes unpunished. Tucker Carlson has a new conspiracy theory for January 6th. And then we are, of course, going to talk about Israel. Israel is already bombing Gaza again. Because, of course. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I know a lot of you already are like, I already know the answer to that. Come on. But it is, okay, you're right. Yes. There's a little bit more to it. We'll dive in. At least according to Michael Cohen. So why don't we get into that story? All right. You know, if it's one thing former President Donald Trump values, it's family. Don Jr., Eric, Ivanka, the other Ivanka, the other blonde one, was it Tiffany? Laura? I don't know. Anyway, apparently he loves his kids, even if he can't remember who they are. But apparently he loves some kids more than others. In fact, according to his former fixer, Michael Cohen, Trump once offered up one of his sons for prison in the place of Ivanka. As if, that's how that works, right? Does that work that way? I don't think it does. I don't think that you could take someone and go, oh no, they will substitute your place in prison. I don't think that's how that works. I choose your fighter, choose your prisoner. Interesting. But all right, hey, there you go. So now, during a recent interview with the grifters over at the Lincoln Project, and I say grifters because Lincoln Project took a lot of lib money and they did nothing with it. They basically blew it all, and Donald Trump ended up actually getting more Republican votes. Nonetheless, I think it is interesting getting some insight from a person who was close to Donald Trump. And so nobody was really all that much closer than his personal fixer, Michael Cohen. So now Cohen cited an occasion in which some legal things seemed to be getting complicated. Who could imagine, right? Nobody knew legal could be so complicated. I had no idea. Legal. But I know legal. I'm the greatest at legal, and still very complicated. You wouldn't believe it. Unbelievable. All right, so it was getting complicated, and it was possible that Don Jr. or Ivanka Trump could be held accountable for said legal thing. So now, it was something that Cohen said he included in his book. Don't buy it. It's trash. Nonetheless, in that book, it appeared to have that appeared to have gone unnoticed. Now, Cohen recalled Trump saying that if it came down to it, to either Don Jr. or Ivanka going to prison, that he would rather have Don Jr. go to prison because he can, quote unquote, handle it. So now, you might be wondering, why are you talking about this? Why is this even relevant? Well, it's because a member of the Trump organization, a very important member, Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump organization, is in a little bit of hot water. So now, in recent weeks, it's been reported a grand jury has been hearing evidence about Mr. Weisselberg, who is facing intense scrutiny from prosecutors as they seek his cooperation with a broader investigation into Mr. Trump and the Trump organization, mainly over taxes, whether or not he had done tax fraud. And so that, of course, they looked into whether he was inflating his assets when it comes to securing loans from different banks, deflating his assets when it comes to, of course, paying his taxes. And so, yes, that is the definition of tax fraud. So basically lying about your assets. All right. So now the prosecutors, this is according to the New York Times, have obtained Mr. Weisselberg's personal tax returns. Well, that's interesting. And so in order to secure Mr. Weisselberg's cooperation in any investigation, which right now he's not cooperating, they're basically seeing whether or not Mr. Weisselberg had actually committed his own tax fraud. The investigation in Mr. Weisselberg focuses partly on whether he failed to pay taxes on valuable benefits that Mr. Trump provided him and his family over the years, including apartments, leased cars, as well as tens of thousands of dollars in private school tuition for at least one of his grandchildren. Said the report, in general, those types of benefits are taxable, although there are some exceptions and the rules can be murky. And so they're looking into what was received when and how, and whether or not any of those could be stuck to Weisselberg in order to get him to flip on Donald Trump and give up the secrets. Because again, if anybody would know whether or not the Trump organization had committed tax fraud, it would be the CFO of the Trump organization. Because Donald Trump himself really doesn't know anything. He's not a smart person, not a very stable genius. He gets other people. Oh, he probably goes and says, I don't want to pay any taxes. Make my taxes go down. Do it now, Weisselberg. And then he figures out a way to do it. All right. And so I would assume that, yeah, Weisselberg is the guy to go to if you were looking at tax fraud. And so now if they have enough evidence to indict Weisselberg and for significant charges, then he could try to secure Weisselberg's cooperation into the investigation into Trump and the Trump organizations. So there you go. Now, that's a lot of ifs that are involved. Understand, right? Now, if that happens, going back to the ifs, Cohen predicts that Trump will flip on Weisselberg first, as well as even his children or his wife, in order to save himself, and if he can, of course, Ivanka, at the expense of basically everyone else. I wish I could say that I was surprised that he would throw everyone literally under the bus. In this case, not literally, but figuratively under the bus. In this case, but I'm not exactly shocked. Yeah, of course. And that he would choose Ivanka. Well, yeah. Again, going back to the weird relationship those two had, as far as like, oh, I'd be dating her if she wasn't my daughter. That's creepy. Like, that's super creepy. No, who says that to their daughter? So it kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense that she would be the one, pretty much the only one besides himself that he would want to keep out of prison. So sorry, Don Jr. I know, fighting so many years for daddy's love. Turns out, you're not going to get it. Sad. Baby. All right. Moving on. So this is slightly more disturbing. I know, and I just gave you an image of Donald Trump and his daughter. What's more disturbing than that? Well, violence. All right. This is quite a story, so I'm just trying to figure out how to start this one. Wow. A frustrated conservative called for violence during a meeting in North Carolina. So now this happened during a meeting, during a presentation by a man named Jay Delancey. Now, Jay Delancey, of course, is looking into quote-unquote voter fraud in North Carolina, and has launched a dozen, no, maybe not a dozen, but quite a few unsuccessful challenges and lawsuits to North Carolina to the voting in North Carolina. In fact, the Voter Integrity Project, which is what this guy heads up, actually attempted to challenge dozens of registered voters on the basis of jury excuse forms that indicated that they might not be citizens of North Carolina. And so during this meeting, where people were able to chime in, well, there was some talk about getting your guns. So now, let me give you the details according to reporters that were there. Now, Delancey had told the crowd, quote, there are these people that are running around saying that there's no voter fraud because there's no prosecutions. Well, have you gotten the gist of how hard it is to get a stinking prosecution? Have you gotten that yet? So it's really hard to get one. Okay, look, I'm going to break this down after all of this. But after he'd said that, a woman with short silvery hair raised her hand and stood to speak. Now, this is a crowd of, I would say, somewhere around 50 people, basically all white but one. Just to show you what the crowd is and who they are. Now, that woman said, "Do you really think that we can't go in and break dishes and we're supposed to sit back like this? I don't think we've got that type of time. I really don't. My real fear," and this is coming from someone who's usually pretty calm, cool, and collected. "I want to go out with a baseball bat and break some dishes and make some things happen. I'm tired of this. I have a real fear that there's going to be civil unrest amongst what are usually very peaceful people. You can only be pushed to the precipice before. I'm done. I mean, where are we going to go golf?" Okay. Curious. So now Delancey told her, "Trust me." I'm sorry. She continued by saying, "I'm still not getting any direct action on what I can do." So again, this woman is worried about voter fraud, basically, and how there's just been, because there's no evidence of voter fraud, that none of their concerns, with them wanting to basically replace Joe Biden with Donald Trump and put Donald Trump back in office because of this specter of voter fraud, right? So you have this woman out there getting really, really frustrated about this, that nothing is happening. Okay, well, Delancey told her, "Trust me, that's next, but the question of the ballot box versus the ammo box, and I'm trying to avoid," to which then the woman interrupted saying, quote, "I've got lots of ammo." I've got lots of ammo. What? Wait, okay. Whoa, hold on here. I got ammo. She would prefer, seemingly, to go with the bullet box. Yikes. So now Delancey chimed in. He said, whoa, honey, you don't have enough. You don't have enough. There's not enough ammo on this planet for what you're talking about. Just saying, so calm down. So this guy, who was out there, by the way, perpetrating the big lie, talking about the big lie, spreading it, and saying, "Oh, we're going to do something about it. We're going to do something. We're going to do something about it." Now, he says, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go the legal route, and we're going to challenge all these votes. Where this person, she's already at the point of, "I'm going to grab my gun." This is where they're at. Scary stuff. So now let me break this down piece by piece, okay? So the man that, as I said, was speaking was John Delancey. Or I'm sorry, not John. That's cute. From Star Trek. This is Jay Delancey. Apologies to John there. This person is a retired Air Force colonel who runs the Voter Integrity Project. Again, these challenges that the Voter Integrity Project brought to the State Board of Elections were roundly rejected. And successive efforts to obtain legislation remedies also failed. Now, so he talks about prosecutions of voter fraud being pretty difficult to do. And that's why, well, there's so few. They're hard to do. Well, no, but by most accounts, there's actually been pretty much a handful of incidents in which somebody had actually been prosecuted successfully for voter fraud. And that's because it's not because it's hard to do. It's just because it's so rare. Voter fraud is a crime, yes. And look, very few people want to actually do it. And the ones that do, most of those end up doing that by mistake, filling out the wrong form, or forgetting that they had already filled out an application, or things like that. Okay? Honestly, thinking about it, when 40% of the country, and this is eligible voting age adults, when they choose not to vote, it's kind of crazy to think that there are people that are so invested in voting that they're willing to do a crime, showing up to 2 different places to vote twice, forging names, in a country where voting apathy is so incredibly high. It doesn't make any sense. Not to me. Most people, again, they're not interested in voting. A lot of people feel like, oh, it doesn't really matter. My voice doesn't matter. What's it going to do, right? There's so much apathy in this country. And you think, well, who's the people that are highly motivated? Well, it turns out there are a few people. There has been voter fraud, as I just mentioned, that there's a handful of them that actually happen. A lot of them by Trump supporters that are whipped up about, ironically, voter fraud. Nonetheless, when it comes to this kind of logic, and when you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense. But again, they believe it. And when you believe something, you don't really need logic. Really, it's about feelings, and their feeling, hearing, basically reading the statement from this woman is that it's about loss. They feel loss. Supposedly the America that they knew is going away, which was overwhelmingly white and conservative, and they're scared. Oh my God, I have to use proper pronouns now. I can't say the N-word. I'm going to get canceled. I don't want to be canceled. I don't understand this new world. They've stolen it from me. It's too diverse now. There's brown people around me. I don't understand. They're speaking a different language, speaking Spanish in America. I don't understand what they're saying. What if they're making fun of me? What if they're here illegally? What if they're here to take my jobs? What if they're here to vote illegally? They're raising my taxes. What do I do? It's fear. It is all based on fear, no evidence. It's fear of a changing world that leaves them behind. And the people who refuse to learn refuse to change. And that's what's going on here. There are people who cling to old stereotypes and beliefs and want to go back to basically leave it to Beaver. Because for them, change is very uncomfortable. It is scary. They don't understand the world as it is, what it's becoming. And I can sympathize to that to an extent. All right. It's not an excuse. It's not a good excuse, but I can understand it. I get it. The longer that you've done and believed in certain things, the harder it is for you to change, especially if you grew up with those things and didn't challenge them and didn't question them at all. And again, the reality of that's the foundation of MAGA. Bring my country back to the way that it was. The only problem is the country that they want to bring it back to never really existed in the first place. Think about this one, right? The old times, the 50s and 60s. That's when marginal tax rates in the rich were at 90%. You had left-wing protests against the Vietnam War. You had strong unions until the 80s, until Reagan wrecked them. So the big thing that they seem to want to bring back, whether they realize it or not, is just mainly open racism. They don't want black people voting. They don't want gay and trans people to openly exist. They don't want atheists around challenging their religious beliefs. In reality, they don't want people challenging their worldview at all. Because when they do, a lot of people get scared. A lot of people get defensive. And that brings me to the ammo. She said before, I want to grab a bat and break dishes. I'm mad. I want to get my gun. I got ammo. I don't believe we lost. I think it was stolen from us. I don't have any evidence to prove it, but I have this feeling, it's in my gut that I lost. But not because I actually lost, but because it was taken from me. It's taken from me. That's the feeling. And of course, one of the reasons is that they've been told that, hey, you lost, that you didn't lose, you got it stolen from you. You got it stolen. I can't believe you let those libs steal the election. Sleepy Joe Biden, who cared? He didn't have any people at his rallies. Mainly because you had COVID. Joe Biden, not exactly the most exciting candidate. At the same time, you had COVID-19, in which most Democratic voters are like, I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to go to a rally. What are you talking about? And then, of course, There were the dumps, the vote dumps that happened once they started counting the mail-in ballots that came in. But again, evidence, right? They don't have evidence of massive voter fraud because there is no evidence of massive voter fraud because it doesn't exist. There is voter fraud for sure. It does happen. But massive voter fraud? No. This is why a majority of Republicans, 53%, falsely believe that Donald Trump is a true president, that he didn't lose. And a lot of them are hinging, as I said, on the dumps.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
He said, this is Delancey. I just find it mighty interesting that Trump was winning those key battleground states that had those large dumps of votes after midnight. You get a massive number of ballots that suddenly show up that swing the election conveniently against Trump. Again, we're talking about something that we knew was going to happen. Something that everybody knew it was going to happen. Delancey says, yeah, we knew that was going to happen, but still, convenient. Okay, well, it's convenient for Biden, sure. That's also the way that it turned out because, again, it's not a conspiracy. Everybody knew that in-person votes would largely benefit Donald Trump. Now, why did we all know that? Well, because Donald Trump, for at least a year, says don't vote by mail. Don't vote by mail. Don't do it. It's full of fraud. It's rife with fraud. Rife. Too much. Vote in person. Vote in person. Vote in person. Whereas Democrats are generally like, no. Don't vote in person. It's dangerous. Coronavirus. Stay safe. Do your mail-in ballots. In fact, a lot of our states are going to expand that capability. All right. So is it any surprise, like I said, that the votes that came in early happen to be from conservatives, or on the same day, conservatives, and then those dumps came in later, just as we said what was going to happen. This is not evidence of fraud in and of itself. Okay? And the fact that they can't find actual proof is one of the reasons that people are getting so very upset, because they keep getting told over and over again, it was stolen. They stole our votes. They stole our votes. And that's why this is dangerous. This big lie. Okay? Because this is not something backed up by factual information. This is something that's a feeling. And they tell people, trust your feelings, not the facts, but the feelings. And the anger that you feel is righteous. You're on the right side. You're on the good side. You're the hero. You're the patriot. You're fighting against injustice. And then when something doesn't happen, you don't get the result that you want, some people end up going towards violence. The hand recounts and numerous challenges to the election should have been enough. But since it didn't fit their idea of what should happen, it is rejected. And I'm worried at some point there will end up being more election-related violence. Maybe worse than January 6th. I hope I'm wrong. But comments like this, stuff like this, it may seem small, one or two people, but sometimes that's all it takes. All right. One more and then we'll go to a break. Real quick, this is Tomi Lahren. Tomi Lahren is a host for Fox Nation, and she pretends to be conservative. I don't believe that she actually is, because every once in a while, something peeks through. that shows that she's kind of pretty much only doing this for money. One of those happens to be where she correctly gendered Caitlyn Jenner when talking about Caitlyn and her campaign to unseat Gavin Newsom or to replace Gavin Newsom. So now there's just like a promo, right? Where she said, California is failing and Caitlyn Jenner believes it is worth fighting for. She wrote, I'll discuss my interview with her next on Fox and Friends. Hey, look at that. Tomi Lahren using the proper pronouns. Wow. Good for Tomi. No, seriously. This is great. She's one step away from trans rights. Guaranteed. So now Jenner appeared on Fox Nation earlier this week to talk about her failing campaign for governor of California. Lahren wrote on Twitter that she was interviewing Jenner to get a sense of what her priorities would be. However, unfortunately, many Tomi Lahren fans were not enthused by the use of proper pronouns and called her out for not misgendering her on purpose. Now, look, I got a lot of problems with Caitlyn Jenner. The trans community has even more problems with Caitlyn Jenner. But her gender identity ain't one of those problems. All right? But if you read through the comments, and I'm not going to, because there's some hateful stuff. Dead naming, deeply problematic. Of course, not using the correct pronouns, saying that Caitlyn Jenner has a mental disorder. Really, really despicable stuff. I'm going to save you from all that. All this stuff has nothing to do with what Caitlyn's politics are. Which, by the way, as I will remind you, Caitlyn's politics are awful. And I don't agree with her on pretty much anything. But the point is that it doesn't really matter to them if you share their political positions. Because it's not about that. It's never been about the positions. All right? It's about hate. It's about bigotry. It's about transphobia. It's about hating other Americans. They will never accept Caitlyn Jenner or any other trans person as one of their own. And I know that there are trans people out there who identify as conservatives, who push conservative, talking points. People like, I think, Ariella Scarcella, Buck Angel, just a couple of examples. Caitlyn Jenner, of course. They'll sit there and, we're conservative. We believe in conservative positions and all this stuff. They're still not going to be accepted. Because it's not about the positions. And yes, some conservatives will get smart and use those people's identities to shield. Dave Rubin, great example of that. Dave Rubin himself has become a shield for the right wing. Oh, look at me. I'm a gay conservative. Give me lots of money and so I can run cover for Fox News. So I can run cover for anti-gay politicians. Hey, as long as you pay me 6 figures so I can, buy a mansion and, live really, really well, I'll be your token gay. And that's what it is. And that's what it is, with a lot of these other trans people. Now, as who are conservatives. And so now for Caitlyn Jenner, this is a little bit different. Caitlyn Jenner's already rich. She's already got all the money in the world. Well, so then why would she be a conservative? Well, because she wants to save tax money. She doesn't want to pay taxes. Remember, Caitlyn Jenner has been incredibly conservative her entire life before she transitioned as well. And so she wants to keep her tax money. She doesn't like poor people. She doesn't like homeless people. She likes money. And she wants to keep as much money, of as much of her tax money out of the budget of California and in her pocket as she can. And that's what it is. So she's in it for herself the whole time. And, and that's really it. The focus on social issues, by the way, as I've told you, the Republican Party is all about funneling money to the rich. And that's what it is. So that people like Caitlyn, can distract you. Or I'd say people on Fox News can distract you while people like Caitlyn pick your pocket by not paying their fair share of taxes. So now, unfortunately for Caitlyn, she's always going to be the one that's hated by the same people that she wants to dupe into letting her keep more of her money in the form of taxes. So there's basically no good people in the story. Tomi Lahren actually comes out the best here because at least she was respectful enough to use proper pronouns. So I guess the least worst person here is, again, Tomi Lahren. But again, I don't believe that Tomi Lahren is actually conservative. I've seen videos, college talking about how, how are we going to do something about climate change, admitting that climate change is real, admitting that we need government intervention, things like that. And so I believe that she is getting paid to be a conservative, and it happens so much on the right wing. Well, they will pay someone lots and lots of money to say the right things, to defend billionaires, to defend tax cuts, small government, deregulation, and this is just another one of those things. So, yeah, maybe that makes it worse. Maybe that makes Tomi Lahren actually worse than everybody else because she's not genuine at all. Either way, there's such a low bar for conservatives. It's like to the ground. It's so bad. All right. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with Tucker Carlson. And then we'll talk about Israel. So fun stuff. Stay right here on The Nation.
There's insanity in the control room.
Amazing.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Around the Nation here, Wallach Nation. All right, so before I get into the rest of the show, I just want to read some super chats. Also, if Tiffany, if you're still here, hello. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate that. Go follow. Let's see. I want to get your name right. XXX Tiffany _star XXX. Obviously, only if you're 18 plus. And just saying. Content warning for her channel. But then she does some great stuff. Super based. So please go follow her channel on Twitch. So anyway, but only if you're 18 plus. All right. Anyway, I know I need to get the I don't know how to do that stuff. Oh, star with 2 R's, by the way. Yes. Thank you for the correction. See, I'm always bad at these shout out segments. Anyway. All right. So now, that said, let me get to some super chats here. Gabby Mathis says, Arizona recount still going on and my tax money is being used. Disgusting. Yes. True. In fact, going back, I didn't have time. But that one story, the person who was running the voter integrity project, he wanted to have more Arizona style recounts. Come on. Are you serious? It's ridiculous. It's a mess in Arizona. It's an absolute disaster. Jesus. All right, anyway. Let's move on. Tucker Carlson. Oh, you know what? No, I actually have another super chat here. I just have to find it. Monty Mouse, thank you for resubbing it. Tier 1. Appreciate that. Timpadan, also, thank you for resubbing at Tier 1. Much appreciated. 6 months. 7 months, Monty. Thank you. Feels like I just started that channel over here on Twitch. And we've already got almost 1,000 followers. That's fantastic. Good stuff. Let's see. Junk Say It, thank you. Appreciate that $5 donation. Much appreciated. All right. Let's do it. Let's dive in. We have Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has a new conspiracy theory about who was actually responsible for the January 6th Capitol riot. Not Trump supporters, but apparently the FBI. Take a look.
For example, one of those unindicted co-conspirators is someone government documents identify only as Person 2. According to those documents, Person 2 stayed in the same hotel room as a man called Thomas Caldwell, an insurrectionist, a man alleged to be a member of the group the Oath Keepers. Person 2 also, quote, stormed the barricades at the Capitol on January 6th alongside Thomas Caldwell. The government's indictments further indicate that Caldwell, who, by the way, is a 65-year-old man, this dangerous insurrectionist, was led to believe there would be a, quote, quick reaction force also participating on January 6th. That quick reaction force, Caldwell was told, would be led by someone called Person 3, who had a hotel room and an accomplice with him. But wait, here's the interesting thing. Person 2 and Person 3 were organizers of the riot. The government knows who they are, but the government has not charged them. Why is that? You know why. They were almost certainly working for the FBI. So FBI operatives were organizing the attack on the Capitol on January 6th, according to government documents. And those two are not alone. In all, Revolver News reported that there are, quote, upwards of 20 unindicted co-conspirators in the Oath Keeper indictments, all playing various roles in the conspiracy, who have not been charged for virtually the exact same activities, and in some cases, much more severe activities, as those named alongside them in the indictments. Huh? So it turns out that this white supremacist insurrection was, again, by the government's own admission in these documents, organized at least in part by government agents. Are you shocked? We're shocked. We shouldn't be shocked. Because in March, the FBI director admitted that the Bureau is infiltrating as many dissident groups that oppose the regime as it possibly can.
Hey, wow, that's an interesting theory. You know what helped us get to the bottom of this? A January 6th commission. Just saying, it might help just a little bit. Okay, all right. So, look, Tucker Carlson's a genius. Not because he's right, okay, but because he knows just how to manipulate his audience, just how to convey the message in a way, basically to craft this narrative around whatever kind of bullshit conspiracy he wants and make people second guess themselves and actually make them like buy into this narrative. He's really good at this. By, of course, asking suggestive questions with no basis in evidence and then treats the answers that he likes as facts. And again, he does that in order to build a narrative, despite the fact that the answers he gives to the questions are not based in actual facts. For one, of course, according to Carlson, Person 2 and Person 3 were organizers of the riot and apparently were part of the FBI, according to him. He says the government knows who they are, but have not charged them because they're FBI or law enforcement, meaning that, to him, the FBI wouldn't arrest their own people. So by extension, those same people, he says, started the riot and lured the rest of the pro-Trump crowd, which is actually secret Antifa, into doing crime. Now, think about that for a second. Just digest that just a little bit. And think about this, right? So, say the MAGA patriots that were there, if they weren't all secret Antifa, because they can't keep their conspiracy straight. So those people were there, led by secret FBI agents to do crimes, and so therefore, it's the FBI people that are bad, and they're the ones who organized it, and those are the ones who should get in trouble. What about the people who actually also did the crimes? Did you leave those people out? Because, being influenced to do crime, you still did the crime. So, that doesn't absolve you if you were influenced by a secret agent. Now, another important point is that actually, no, we don't know who these unindicted co-conspirators are. And we don't know that they're FBI. He's saying, oh, yeah, no, they're totally FBI. No, they're not. It's a real nice theory, again, for people who have no idea how this actually works. Legal experts actually say that the government cannot name an undercover agent as an unindicted co-conspirator. In fact, Jens David Olin, a criminal law professor at Cornell, said there are many reasons why an indictment would reference unindicted co-conspirators, but their status as FBI agents is not one of them. Lisa Kern Griffin of Duke University added, undercover officers and informants can't be co-conspirators for the purposes of establishing an agreement to violate the law because they are only pretending to agree to do so. An unindicted co-conspirator has committed the crime of conspiracy, and investigative agents doing their jobs undercover are not committing crimes. So, okay. So, basically, you can't go undercover and do crime. If you did, you'd be a criminal, and you would be indicted as a criminal. The logic really doesn't add up here. But again, that's why it's a conspiracy. So then why might someone be indicted as a co-conspirator? Or, I'm sorry, an unindicted co-conspirator? Well, it's because, for one, and there's several different reasons. One, the government doesn't actually know who they are. Oh, okay. The government might also not have sufficient evidence to indict them and wants to avoid impugning their reputations or compromising an ongoing investigation. That's another reason. Or they have secured leniency from the government for cooperation with investigations into others. So now, that last one, we actually have an example of that. Founding member of the Oath Keepers, John Ryan Schaefer, has actually agreed to cooperate with law enforcement. Not only that, but in the Caldwell incident that Tucker Carlson talks about, it literally references one by name. It says Oath Keepers are led by person one. That person is identifiable as Stuart Rhodes. Stuart Rhodes, head of the Oath Keepers, is not an FBI agent, not a government agent at all. And again, there is reason to believe that one of the two unidentified co-conspirators Carlson actually talked about might actually be Caldwell's wife, who was literally there taking pictures with Caldwell inside of the Capitol. So seriously, Caldwell in person too, according to the report, took 2 selfie photographs of themselves in the balcony and other areas of the perimeter of the Capitol. Fun. The Washington Post also reported that Caldwell posted images to Facebook while writing us storming the the castle. Please share. Sharon, his wife, is right with me. I'm such an instigator. Now, Caldwell's wife has not been openly charged with a crime and was not otherwise referenced in the indictment, despite being present near him, meaning that she could be considered the other unindicted co-conspirator. Not only that, but Tucker Carlson, set aside all of that. Tucker Carlson just goes to gigantic leaps here. He says that since the government had infiltrated the organizations involved, that they also, because of the infiltration, in order to monitor their activities, because, of course, in the weeks and months leading up to January 6th, there was a lot of talk on different online forums, Gab, Parler, Facebook, these different groups, Reddit, where they got together and they started openly talking about this. The FBI had also previously considered a lot of these right-wing groups a potential threat. And so, of course, the FBI and law enforcement will go and infiltrate these groups to monitor that. But no, Tucker Carlson says, well, I mean, if they infiltrated the group, then they must have planned the January 6th insurrection because they're part of the infiltration group with no evidence whatsoever. Gigantic leap, monstrous leap, jumping over a chasm. Imagine if you applied that to other groups. And look, we've got historical precedent, right, of the FBI infiltrating left-wing groups. Could you imagine Tucker Carlson defending a left-wing group? That, I don't know, like what kind of terrorism does left-wing groups do, right? Free animals from a factory farm? Basically, violate agriculture gag laws to try to, show what actually happens inside of slaughterhouses and things like that. Now imagine Tucker Carlson, saying, oh, I can't believe the FBI would infiltrate this group. I mean, they must have been the ones that were trying to free the animals. It's a true story. True story, because they were part of it. No, it's ridiculous. But it's already worked. And understand, this is what Carlson does, and this is why he's so good at what he does. Because he makes these leaps, but couches it in the, I'm just asking questions, what? Anything is possible. This is definitely possible. Look at these different threads that I've decided to, tie together very, very nicely. And already, again, is it enough? No, but it's enough to get the audience that watches Tucker Carlson exactly what they want. And that is to say, aha! I knew it wasn't us. I knew it wasn't MAGA. No, us patriots would never do something like that. No, FBI, deep state, secret Antifa. They're the ones. They're the bad ones. We're the good ones. And look, to show the effectiveness of propaganda, already gigantic figures on the right wing have repeated this talking point. Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the conservative outlet, the Washington Examiner, have all posted this. They're all talking about this, and they're saying, aha, we got them. Deep state, the FBI, planned the Capitol riots. We knew it. We knew it. It almost seems like it's coordinated in some weird way. And now you're going to have a significant chunk of people, because these are influencers online in the right, that are now going to believe the FBI planned and executed, along with secret Antifa or whatever conspiracies they'd love to mix up with this, that they're the ones who planned and invaded the Capitol building in an effort to make Donald Trump look bad. This is total insanity. I mean, so you're saying, by the way, if you follow the logic, which they obviously don't, but you're saying that all the people, or almost all the people at the Stop the Steal rally, were Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and all these others, Madison Cawthorn, were all on tape saying, yeah, we're going to fight. We're going to march down Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to stop the steal. We're going to stop the count. Oh, you're saying that entire crowd was filled with FBI spooks and secret Antifa. Well, then where's the MAGA crowd? Where was the MAGA crowd? Oh, I know. They stayed home because they were too smart. Too smart to get caught up in this. Sure. By the way, those same people were planning on Facebook, Parler, and Gab. And they were caught. Again, this only makes sense if you're willing to contort yourself into a pretzel. It's the mother of conspiracies. Pretzel logic to the extreme. Willful ignorance. Conservatives. Is this what you meant by personal responsibility? I know. They never believed in it. Of course not. But seriously, though, it's not the deep state. It's not the FBI, who traditionally, by the way, the FBI has a storied history of going after leftist movements with the gusto that the CIA uses to go after leftist leaders in South America and in other places. So, and in fact, that's pretty much the FBI's job, is to take down leftist movements across the country. But instead, and I'm not saying this is a leftist movement, but at this point, the right wing has gotten so unhinged and so dangerous that the FBI finally had to admit, all right, we got a little bit of a problem here. Big problem, actually. Why the Republicans don't want to investigate this, by the way. I mean, you would think that if they actually thought that, oh my God, what if it was deep state infiltration, that they would want to, but they know. People in Congress that blocked the January 6th commission, they know the truth. They know it was MAGA. They know it was the Chuds. They know the truth. Tucker Carlson is absolutely lying his ass off. Just like he does every single night. If you believe it, shame on you. All right. Move it. One more story here. So much for the ceasefire in Gaza. Just hours after far-right marchers in Israel chanted "Death to Arabs" during a demonstration in the streets of Jerusalem, Israeli warplanes bombarded the occupied Gaza Strip. This happened on Wednesday morning in the first series of airstrikes launched by the new government of Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. So now, I recently talked about Bennett, and I had a little bit of hopium, not for the fact that Bennett was good. No, in many different respects. I had mentioned that Bennett's actually worse than Benjamin Netanyahu. The only difference is that he was not as openly corrupt as Netanyahu, but actually far more right-wing. And boy, I was wrong, and I'm the first to admit that one. He is a terrible right-winger. He's a ultra-nationalist. He boasted that when he was in the military, he killed a lot of Arabs. But I said that, well, a little bit of hope, because at least he might be constrained by the Israeli parliament, of which he has very, very tenuous control over. And of course, they had to prove me wrong by being horrible. While initial reports indicate that no Palestinians, according to Common Dreams, were killed by the new bombing campaign, the air raid intensified fears of a fresh wave of violence by the Israeli government after just weeks of a tenuous ceasefire agreement paused Israel's deadly 11-day assault on Gaza last month, which killed more than 240 people. The Israeli military characterized the latest airstrikes as retaliation for incendiary balloons released into Israel from the Gaza Strip. The balloons reportedly caused at least 10 fires. Though, as far as I know, nobody was injured or killed. Abu Malek, or Abu Malik, who the Associated Press identified as one of the young men launching those balloons, said the incendiary objects were released into Israel in response to a far-right government-sanctioned march through Jerusalem, where demonstrators rallied along several members of the Israeli Knesset and chanted, quote, "Death to Arabs." Yeah. So that's horrible. And where's the outrage about that, by the way? Mainstream media. Mainstream media. Why are you not saying that chant was horrible? I mean, again, you would have massive outrage if a group of Arabs, Palestinians, chanted death to Israel, your hair would be on fire. Your hair would be on fire. Absolutely. And for good reason. For good reason. I think that's a horrible chant too. They're both horrible chants. Why don't we not do that? Why don't we not sanction that kind of hate? I mean, again, absolutely unacceptable and outrageous for either side to be chanting to the death of the other side. Okay? Now, Abu Malek, dude, what are you doing? Like, sending over balloons, by the way, that are on fire is not going to do anything except for cause a disproportionate response by Israel, which is exactly what happened. Again, the thing is that you have that massively disproportionate response. You have homemade fire balloons versus U.S.-made bombs and F-35s. I mean, come on. Seriously. Completely 100% disproportionate. But that, of course, really characterizes the entire quote-unquote conflict. And I hesitate calling it a conflict. In reality, again, it is oppression. It is ethnic cleansing, essentially. Israel, again, is backed by the United States and has billions of dollars worth of, munitions, arms, Iron Dome, whereas the Palestinians have cheap rockets and fire balloons. It is not proportional at all. It is an occupation. Not only that, but Israeli police also fired rubber bullets at Palestinians who tried to disrupt the march, which reached the main entrance to the old city's Muslim quarter. Now think about it this right? So you had this group of disruptive people that are chanting death to Arabs right outside where a bunch of Muslims live. What did you think was going to happen? That was on purpose. You were goading these people into provoking a response. So then, when they produce a response, you respond disproportionately. And it goes on and on and on. And it never ends. And unfortunately, there are members of the Israeli government that don't want it to end. And American defense contractors that also don't want it to end. Because we are the world's biggest arms supplier. And if people aren't bombing each other, well, then we lose out on sales. And that's what it is. Now, several members of Congress called this out, saying, quote, this is Representative Jamal Bowman saying about the chant, this is a genocidal chant. Let's call it for what it is. I represent many within the Jewish community who disavow and condemn this hateful language. Why does only a small portion of our Congress? That is a good question. Of course, the obvious answer is, for one, they don't want to be labeled anti-Semitic. And for two, there are powerful lobbying interests. Representative Rashida Tlaib, also, this is the first Palestinian-American woman ever elected, said this: after racist and violent death to Arab marches earlier today in Jerusalem, children in Gaza are being woken by bombs in the middle of the night. Israel's government doesn't value Palestinian life, she continued, and it has managed a decades-long ethnic cleansing project funded by the U.S. The Israeli airstrikes came just over 48 hours after the country's parliament nearly voted to replace former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with Bennett. A change defenders of Palestinian rights did not applaud, given the latter's record and policy stances. As I mentioned, he's massively right-wing. Is not in favor of a two-state solution. He's in favor of a one-state solution. Israel taking control of everything. Massively pro-settler, massive pro-expansion, which is, again, only going to continue to inflame violence and stoke violence and disproportionate responses. So, again, endless war. Wonderful. In fact, his positions include support for annexing the West Bank in violation of international law. Ariel Gold of Code Pink wrote this on Monday, quote, while being hailed as many as the opportunity for a fresh start, Naftali Bennett is at best a continuation of Netanyahu's policies and at worst an ideologue whose positions are to the right of Netanyahu. So yeah, new boss, same as old boss, and actually worse, probably worse. Depressing, very depressing. So there went hope for that. All right. Sorry to leave you off on such a depressing note, but it is what it is. It is absolutely one-sided, yes. I don't know if I was clear enough on that. Y'all kind of hang on things a little too much. Like, you know it's bad, and I know it's bad. By holding on the power of the U.S., U.S. takes all responsibility of any act or action taken by the abused and oppressed to resist that oppression in defense of the rights of humanity. They don't like it. They need to stop being oppressors. Well, I agree they should stop being oppressors. I just, maybe I'm too utilitarian in your view, but I'm one of those people who wants to save as many lives as possible on both sides. And so I think that all life is precious. I think that all lives need to be protected. Everybody. And I want there to be peace and justice. And I don't see a way other than for them to stop doing those settlements, do some sort of like allow them to go to the UN. The United States has to stop blocking their petition to go to the UN in order to get their own Palestinian state. They need to be able to do that. That's what Israel did, and the United States is literally, and as well as Israel, blocking their ability to go do that. And it's completely hypocritical. Awful, awful, awful. And until that changes, and until the United States stops being the world's weapons manufacturer and arms dealer, I mean, this is going to be never ending. Absolutely never ending. And it's depressing. So, all right. Anyway. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here. Well, let's see. Super chats or anything like that that I have. Let's see. No, but hey, if you can help our channel by doing that or becoming a patron, I really appreciate it. Again, we're getting crushed by the algorithm, so and the in between elections slump, which is hitting everybody on YouTube incredibly hard. Become a patron, support the show, help keep us going. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Love you all, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all later.
Who's got a hammer? Tighten up my meat. I like my meat tight.
Dumps. Big, massive dumps.
Please clap. They're kicking me out the door.